Hello, dear friends. Periods of silence and solitude are needed to rejuvenate body, mind, and spirit in the face of the avalanche of world events that has been unleashed this March. Opinion piece, wall falling, train crash, meat grinder, regime change, collapse foretold, fight for freedom, elephant in a China shop. Europe doesn't want peace. Let's start. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 represents the resistance of the human spirit to oppression. The image of people tearing down the wall with hammers and picks became a powerful symbol of the fight for freedom. This event has been a source of inspiration for libertarian movements around the world, symbolizing the possibility of social change through collective action. It is a symbol of hope, unity, and freedom, which has had a lasting impact on the fight for human rights. Pink Floyd's song, Another Brick in the Wall, symbolizes rebellion against oppressive authority. The lyrics reflect discontent against the indoctrination imposed by the system. The chorus, we don't need no education, we don't need no thought control, expresses rejection of the way control was exercised, limiting freedom of thought and expression. The music video, which shows students marching in unison and then destroying their school, reinforces the message of rebellion against authority. Train crash. The meeting between Trump and Zelensky was a train crash like the fall of the Berlin Wall, according to Benjamin Fulford. The world is witnessing a regime change bigger than that of the Soviet Union. It is about the collapse of the old regime in the West. This is what President Trump's public humiliation of dictator Zelensky means. It goes further. We are witnessing the end of a 3,000-year-old plot to enslave humankind. The news events that we will see in the coming days should be viewed in this context. Zelensky was apparently at the White House to sign a $500 million Ukrainian rare earths deal, but he demanded that the US military fight Russia in exchange for the minerals. Trump and Vance said no, and Zelensky was unceremoniously ejected from the meeting. According to Benjamin Fulford, this was a farce because Ukraine does not have that much worth of minerals, but only has $20 billion worth of minerals that are located on Russian-controlled territory. Moreover, Zelensky cannot give Trump the mining concessions because he gave them to the UK 4 days before Trump's inauguration, when London and Kiev signed a 100-year partnership agreement. The agreement stipulates that the UK will take control of all ports, power plants, natural gas storage facilities, oil pipelines, and titanium deposits in Ukraine. Breaking news. Trump halts funding for new weapons for Ukraine. Putin-Trump summit speeds up after White House row over Zelensky. US halts cyber operations against Russia, pulls world back from brink of collapse. The UK and Zelensky already signed an agreement on January 17, 2025. Zelensky says he does not owe Trump an apology. According to Tulsi Gabbard, Zelensky has tried to drag the US into a nuclear war with Russia, and no one has criticized him for it. Zelensky informs the EU that its refusal to work with the US to achieve peace will require them to pay $250 billion to keep the war going on. Since Trump will not give him more money, the EU will give all its money to Zelensky, said NATO chief Mark routine. EU could give Ukraine hundreds of billions of dollars in aid at March 6th summit, President Macron says. Ukraine wants a world war and we have a problem. Zelensky wants to keep fighting even at the cost of a world war, US intelligence says. According to Tucker Carlson, the Ukrainian military sells weapons to the black market. Europe is collapsing and needs a war with Russia, according to Martin Armstrong. Vance moves to an undisclosed location as Norway refuses to refuel US ships. Macron and Starmer proposed their trash plan for Ukraine. It consists of the deployment of European troops in the Slavic country. British Prime Minister Starmer will deliver 5,000 missiles to Zelensky. Starmer says he wants to put British boots on the ground and planes in the air to defend Ukraine. But the British military is not prepared for the deployment to Ukraine, according to The Independent. The problem is that Russia can occupy all of Western Europe within weeks without worrying about US retaliation. Le Pen criticizes Brussels for power grab, says peace is the only option. Two European countries are resisting further support for Ukraine, Hungary and Slovakia. Orbán said that Brussels should follow the example of the US and enter into direct talks with Russia on a ceasefire. Hungary sees Ukrainian attacks on Turk Stream infrastructure as an attack on its sovereignty. The old elite game of creating two sides for every issue is back in play. Ukraine or Trump. Keeping arguing about that and forget about the Epstein files. The dark side is manipulating the public into accepting the possibility of a world war, using Zelensky to maintain control and stop his demise. According to Lorenzo C., the era of unquestionable authority over us is coming to an end and resistance has already begun. Financial collapse. According to Benjamin Fulford, 3 high-level sources say there will be a financial collapse in the US this year, along with civil unrest, and Trump was clinging to the idea of the mining deal with Ukraine because he hoped to use that money to avoid bankruptcy. His speech about replacing the IRS with an external revenue service is another example of this. Tariffs were the main source of government revenue in the original US Constitution. That would mean 150% tariffs to get the same amount of money. But now people are not going to pay more for their inputs. Mexico is going to impose tariffs on China to offset the US tariffs, which fits perfectly with what Trump wants. The idea of imposing 25% tariffs on Canada would also be impossible, because farmers get 80% of their potash from Canada, and that would make them uncompetitive. Furthermore, the industry depends on cheap Canadian steel and aluminium, made with cheap hydroelectric power from Canada, and the industry would become uncompetitive without that cheap metal. It is clear that the elephant in the china shop remains the Federal Reserve Board, so it would need to be nationalized to avoid bankruptcy, along with all the other central banks. That will mean bankrupting the American corporation and replacing it with something new. Solutions. It's time to show the gold. If there were little gold in Fort Knox, confidence in the dollar would be lost. They say that stocks are overvalued and the price of gold is ridiculously low. That is why gold is beginning another big upward movement in an exponential acceleration phase. Trump would not be surprised if there were no gold in Fort Knox. So it's time to show the world the real gold. Against this backdrop, President Trump says he will move forward with a strategic reserve of cryptocurrencies, which would be fine, but he will have to back them with a basket of real-world goods, or he would just be whistling in the wind. Cryptocurrencies serve as Trump talks of a strategic reserve. Tomorrow night will be big. Trump posted cryptic message on Truth Social. President Trump posted a cryptic message on his social media on Monday. In quotes, "Tomorrow night will be big. I'll tell it like it is." The president didn't specify what he was referring to specifically or provide further details. Faced with the possibility of bankruptcy, Trump has allied himself with Russia against the owners of the Federal Reserve, the European Union, and its frontman Zelensky. In what amounts to a declaration of war, Trump said, "The European Union was formed to screw the US. That is its purpose, I mean. The US also plans to act as an intermediary and transport Russian gas to Germany via Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Secret talks have been taking place in Switzerland for several weeks to negotiate the deal." And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.